Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Rise and Write with Grace and James. I'm Grace.
Still James.
Still James. And this is a place for creators, collaborators, and fun company for the journey. Today, super fun, Deanna Young out of Indiana is joining us. She is a speaker, a writer. She's a president of her own nonprofit. She's an author, and she has a full-time job as a paralegal. Trademark paralegal. So she's not playing around. So thank you, Deanna, for making time for us and joining us again.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's so fun. I was like so excited that I get to be on Grace and Jim's podcast.
We appreciate it. So you have a lot going on, and I'm not going to hide the fact that this is take two because we just had a little freezing up of the Zoom. So we're going to start again. Can you tell us what you're working on?
So I am working on a couple different things. As you said, I kind of got my hands in a lot of pots, but I have been a blogger for several years. And by blogging, it's really more kind of a short devotion, so to speak, or short little readings. So they're things that you can read really in about 2 minutes. I like to make them kind of fun, but yet they have a lesson at the end of them. So I used to do those like 4 to 5 days a week, and I've gotten away from that. So I'm really working on trying to get a routine to get back into writing more routinely 3 or 4 days a week. So I'm working on that. Boy, ideas just roll, and you all probably know that as well. Like we'll be driving down the road and my husband will say, "You're thinking again, aren't you?" I am. My mind is always blog thinking, but it's sitting down and doing it. So I'm really working on the blogging and getting a routine for that. Also kind of tweaking my website. My tagline is making a difference to someone every day. And I truly mean that. I mean, like that's truly who I am. And I really want to take that to find a way to help people find their own way of making a difference every day. So I'm sort of working on corralling a lot of these ideas into one and then tweaking my website a little bit. And then the last thing that's really kind of a big thing for me in my life right now is Bucket Buddies Mission. And that is the nonprofit that you mentioned earlier that was started in honor and now memory of my sister who passed away of cancer. And so we fill buckets and give them to children's hospitals. And during COVID, we have expanded our mission statement because it was very difficult to get into children's hospitals, as you all can imagine. And so we've expanded that through our board of directors. We decided to expand to nursing home facilities and also Safe Passage, which is a domestic violence shelter in our county. So we are expanding that. And right now I'm working with a couple of groups in our county to fill those buckets and fill those items to deliver to some of those areas that I just told you. So some collaborating going on with people outside of just right here in my own household.
Go ahead.
We often ask about collaborating. What are the challenges and what are the gifts of collaborating? Because we find that it's mixed. You know, there's some challenges or some great things about collaborating. What have you found that works and might be challenges with the collaborative process?
Yes, that's a great question. And, you know, there's collaboration all over the place, obviously. Like if I'm writing, you're collaborating. If, you know, it's a huge word, but I'm going to take that and kind of go down the route of the bucket buddies, as you're saying, and the collaborating with people outside. Obviously, the positive is you have more people that are supporting your mission. And it can be an expensive mission, obviously, because you're filling buckets with items. Each bucket, we estimate costs around $10. And so collaborating obviously helps you to get more items donated from a monetary perspective. And then just the relationships that you build when collaborating, those are fantastic. The downside probably of collaborating is it's a lot to collaborate, for lack of a better word. But so if we have, I will just use right now, for example, the group that I'm working with. They're great. It's a group it's the area vice presidents in the sales team at the company that I work for. And they wanted to do something for the community as a community outreach and chose Bucket Buddies, which we are very thankful for. the challenge with collaborating like that is we need to say we're going to fill 100 buckets. These are the items that are accepted in hospitals, and then coming up with a list of those items, and then having people donate those items. All of that seems good until you start to put it together. If you just say, could you bring Hot Wheels and coloring books and crayons and jump ropes, you might have people bring 200 coloring books and only 10 crayons. And so it's the problem, or the challenge with collaborating like that is making sure that you have someone that's organized, or else that I will take that to organize it. And the other challenge with that being said is knowing where my role starts and ends, and what I want to let go of, which is very hard for someone like me to kind of let it go, to let someone else lead it. Yeah. But again, making sure that I give them all of the information that they need to fill these buckets, fill these items. And then this kind of the second part of that collaborating is finding a place that will take your donation. So you sort of have to think, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? I got to find the place that will accept these, but then I also need to find someone that will fill the buckets in order for us to send them there to accept. So there's a lot of challenges with collaborating, but I think that the positives certainly outweigh the challenges.
No doubt, no doubt. I want to jump back to one thing you said early. You said that you feel it's your personal, like a mission statement of yours to make a difference in someone else's day. When did that mission occur to you in your life?
And why?
And how did it come about?
Gosh, you guys, that's a good one. I will have to say, this is going to sound so corny, but honestly, my whole life, I have been about random acts of kindness. So when I think about making a difference to someone every day, I think about random acts of kindness. But random acts of kindness is a very broad statement, because when I want to make a difference to someone every day, I have to be intentional. And I think that is such a key word to my mission statement, is intentionality. And so I will tell you that I took a challenge with a friend of mine. She had done this. She wrote a book about it. And it was to do something kind or something every day for someone. And she blogged about it. That is fine for her. I love when it's anonymous, or when you can do things and people don't really know that. That's the best kind for me. But she did a great journey, and she has had a great path of blogging about that and get people on board. So I took her challenge, and I did 365 straight days of doing something for someone. So that, it doesn't have to be big. It can be sending a card. It can be leaving an extra tip at a restaurant or things like that. But I think that I grew up in a family that, we're a Christian family, and we just grew up in wanting to do things for other people. And it became something that just brings such joy to me. And then when I took that challenge several years ago, it's really just become my life mission. And when you do something like that challenge, yes, you're doing it every day so that you can kind of keep track and say, I'm getting a check mark, I'm doing this challenge, but it then becomes a way of life. It's just like they say with exercise, do it for X amount of straight days, it's going to become a part of your life. If you start doing things for other people, it becomes a part of your life. And so it just seems like every day I'm looking for a different challenge of ways to help people. And I just have had a heart for children and for cancer. My family's been hit very hard with cancer. I lost my sister in 2014. My mom had breast cancer, but she's a survivor. My dad had bladder cancer. He's a survivor. I lost my mother-in-law to cancer. I lost my brother-in-law to cancer. Every one of my mom's brothers and sisters had cancer. Half of my dad's sisters and brothers have had cancer. So we have been hit very hard. And I am thankful to not be in that number, but I want to find a way to give back to that community who helped us through our journeys there. And my sister was never able to have children. And so I felt like if we could do something in honor of her, because she loved children. And I always call people my little buddy. I'm sure, Grace, I've probably said that to you. Hello, buddy. And so somehow God laid on my heart to name this mission Bucket Buddies. And we just took it from there and kind of ran with it.
I want to jump in there. You know that my brother passed from cancer. Also, it is a brutal journey for not just it definitely for the person who's got it. It can steal hope. It can steal so much.
Yeah.
Just how now you have a very interesting way that this nonprofit came about, because your sister's diagnosed, she's declining, and you decide you're going to do something about it. Can you tell us about the moment when this idea occurred to you? Because a nonprofit is I don't know if everyone knows, a nonprofit is very difficult to start. It is not an easy endeavor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're up kind of maybe a little countdown clock or something. Can you give us the timeline and tell us what you're thinking?
Sure. I worked with Make-A-Wish Foundation for 7 years, I believe it was, before I started this. And so I already kind of had this idea to do something. It started in conjunction with Make-A-Wish, really just of giving the gifts. It wasn't anything with the nonprofit. And I just got to work with these little children who had these wishes. And so I said, I want to do something with that. And so it was kind of mulling around in my mind. Now, my sister had dealt with ovarian cancer for 9 years. And so in July, it was probably about May, I would say, of 2014, I'm just like, my heart is bursting. I've got to do something. And I think it has to do with buckets, and I think it has to do with gifts, and I think it has to do with children. And so my secretary at work, well, our big boss at work wanted to do a community event. And so my secretary went to her and said, hey, Deanna has this idea. It's Bucket Buddies mission. It's filling buckets. It's delivering them to hospitals. What do you think? She said, I think it's awesome. Let's do it. So our team of about 30 people jumped on board to support my very tiny nonprofit that wasn't even a nonprofit yet, but just my large idea with very small things, you know. And they gave the money, they got the donation items. And so I just said to myself, okay, we're jumping in, Deanna. We've got somebody that wants to do this. And so I wrote a letter to Riley Children's Hospital in Indianapolis, and I wrote a letter to St. Jude's Children's Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. Told them what I was wanting to do. Would they be willing to accept these buckets? We would be very responsible as to the items that we gave to them. And we also would, you know, be very conscientious as to what they would accept and what they did not want us to put in the buckets. You know, for one thing, be very conscientious of putting hair items in if a child wouldn't have hair, you know, things like that. So we thought about that. And so I got a call from St. Jude's Children's Hospital that said, we'd love to have 100 buckets. And so, bam, as I said before, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? You got to have money to do it, but yet you got to have the place to take it. And fortunately, my general counsel was very, very kind. And so the company that I work for donated the money, and people donated items, and we had an awesome team event filling those. And then my 2 daughters, a friend and her daughter, and I drove from Indiana to Memphis, Tennessee, and delivered these buckets. And you're going to make me cry here, but it was so awesome when we delivered them. We took some pictures outside, you know, and I work with the child advocates at most every turn. And the child advocate put the buckets up on the ledge, and then she told the children to come and get them. So we actually got to see them, get them. And, you know, due to HIPAA, you don't get to see that a lot. And so I was able to then go back and show those pictures to my sister. And she passed away 5 months later, and that was in 2014. And so yeah, 7 years later, we've delivered almost 9,000 buckets.
Wow.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
That's incredible.
yeah, in 27 different states in Canada. And those different states that we've been able to deliver, that has happened a lot from my company and the sales organizations around the country that have jumped on board to see if they could help. And then also, anytime we travel, we deliver buckets to a hospital or a location that we haven't been before, if we haven't been in that state.
That's amazing.
That is-
That's amazing. What a journey. And the fact that, so we talked about this a little bit before, there's so much there to digest, but we talked about this a little bit before, that most people start nonprofits after the fact. And you didn't wait. You started it before. You were moved and started it before. And your sister got to see it.
Did that help with the healing process?
What did that mean for her?
That
Yeah.
she got to see what an incredible difference you were making with people who were also suffering with cancer?
Yeah. What was your question, Jim? Did it help with my healing process?
Yeah, your
Yeah,
healing process,
Mhm.
you know, and it must have brought joy to her as well. I would,
Right.
you know, despite the illness, to know that so many people were being loved in that way.
It really did. It helped with the healing process. And even now, as you can tell, you know, it gets a little emotional as you think about that and the way that the nonprofit has been blessed and the people that have come on board. And I think that cancer has affected, as we can just see right here in this conversation, so many people. And I think that when you talk about cancer and you talk about children and you talk about helping people just want that. I think that just draws people in. And I know that we talked about my book, you know, I have a small devotion, extra hot fudge, please.
I love
Which
it.
kind of tells my personality a little bit. But so a portion of the proceeds from that book then goes back to Bucket Buddies. And we have just been so fortunate to have people locally donate, people. I've gotten some grants, and you were talking about the nonprofit process. It is a little taxing. I've been very fortunate. I have our board of directors consists of my good friend who's an attorney, my good friend who's a CPA, and my good friend who's a nurse. So
That's a great team.
That's a good team. Yeah.
Yeah, it helped a lot. But my company actually foot the bill for me to start the nonprofit. You know, they said we donate to all kinds of causes like this, and my general counsel said we want to foot this for you. So it was very kind that helped. And Grace, you know me pretty well too. I mean, I'm a goal setter, and if I set a goal, I set the small steps to make those goals happen. And this was a goal of mine. And when I saw that we could really cash in on it, and cash is a very bad word,
I know.
but you know what I'm saying, really hone in on it and have some help from people who wanted to help.
Yeah.
We took that opportunity, and it's just been a blessing ever since.
That's amazing.
When you started, did you see it getting as big as it could? Were you just trying to get a few buckets out? Was it just like, you know, you started small and it just became maybe bigger than you thought it would be?
It did. And I tell you, the other thing that's just kind of hilarious in all of this is how we started, you know, with a bucket that was, you know, like this big, and then you're stuffing the bottom of it, and then you're putting your items in there, and then we're delivering them in cardboard boxes. Well, we have since evolved, and I have one of the talks that I do too in my speaking area is it's all in the presentation. And so one of the things I felt like is when we present these, we want them to be bright and cheery, but over time my idea of presentation has gotten even better, I guess. And so now we take I have one here.
You have one? Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So we take a bucket and we put tissue paper in it, and the bucket is smaller than what we started with, so nothing needed, and no filler in the bottom needed. We put the tissue paper in for the presentation. And then when we deliver them, I ask all of our volunteers from around the country to deliver them in Rubbermaid totes. Even though it's going to cost a little bit, you know, $6 a tote versus perhaps a free cardboard box you have, the presentation as you deliver that and leaving those Rubbermaid totes for storage for the recipients has really been a positive. So I don't know if I answered your question. I can't remember what your question was.
No, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
And I know that you mentioned earlier that, you know, you're not doing this for credit or whatever. However, have you heard from any of the parents? Have you gotten feedback that how it helped not the child and the family? I would assume you have, but I'm curious if you have and what that meant to you.
It has. So we've had some, not a lot. And you know, I don't take offense to that because the people that we are delivering these to have bigger things to worry about than to thank the recipient or to thank the giver. Yeah. But we do always put, we have a label on there that has our website, and we do just so that they know where it comes from and that it's a reputable organization.
Right.
So yeah, so we've had, I had a lady reach out on the email. I can't remember what state she was from, and it was the grandmother of a grandchild who was in pediatrics that and she sent me a picture of the bucket in the incubator with the baby.
Oh my.
And when my husband and I went on we flew out to Arizona and we rented a car and we went to 4 different states to deliver buckets. And we met an actual lady going in with her child to an appointment. I asked her if she wanted one of the buckets because the child advocate wasn't out yet. She said, sure. They end up sending me a note, sending me items on Amazon as a thank you. Just really went over and kind of over and above what you would expect. And I would say maybe over the years we've had, you know, a dozen people that have come back and thanked us. But again, it's like you said, it's not really offensive because, you know, they have more to do than you know, come back to us. However, I think a joy that I get too is watching all of these different groups from around the country fill the buckets. So if you go on our website, you will, so if you go to deannadayyoung.com, I have tabs up there, and you can go to the Bucket Buddies tab, and there are pictures out there, a couple hundred pictures out there, and a lot of them are of people filling the buckets and having fun doing it. Because of HIPAA laws, we have very few out there that have children, but the ones that do have children, we have permission to put. But and then we've got to deliver to places before, a Down syndrome facility where everyone said that we could meet the children, every parent said we can meet the child, and they were all probably 3rd grade and younger. I would say it was probably in elementary. They were so excited, and my daughter and I did that one together. And so the joy that we get from that, whether we're allowed to share that on social media or not, is way beyond what we would expect. It's exciting.
It's so important when giving that you give with a whole heart, and it's just so good that you understand the process of, from the legal perspective, of sometimes you just have to give you're not going to have that you know, we're so with social media and everything, everybody wants the photo, that it's just joyful just to give for giving's sake and not
that's making a difference to someone every day.
Every day. It's really
circle.
You know, I think it's worth bringing up, like Oprah had a whole show on people who would, like, let's say they're at Starbucks, they pay for the person behind them, they pay for them. I mean, eventually some, you know, guy like says, I'm not paying for it. But it would go on and on and on. Pay a toll on the New Jersey Garden State Parkway where it's like you pay a toll behind you. And that person, that was 20 years ago, that person's still thinking about the guy that paid the toll for him. And I know that
100%. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, when someone's been generous with me 25 years ago, I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
And that's exactly what make a difference to someone every day in my mind is. It is about keeping it going, getting other people involved. And if you look during the holidays, people are so giving. Why can we not keep that spirit all year long?
Yeah.
you know, and I've been the recipient of someone paying for me, and I have also been the payor, and it's so fun. It's just the best. Yeah.
Where do you think, I want to drill down on that idea of generosity. Where do you think that I think it can be a learned behavior. I think if, I'm trying to think of what my question is exactly, but I know where it comes from in you. You were raised a certain way, but how would someone who hasn't practiced generosity or been exposed to it or the benefits of it, what do you think they could do to get themselves started on a generosity, to get it in their hearts? You know what I mean? Not a
Right.
one-off, not just Christmas, not just like
A lifestyle.
a
Right.
lifestyle. Yeah.
Right. It becomes a part of who you are. And I think that it really goes back to that word intentional. I think you have got to be intentional. It's just like I said before, exercising, or you know, if you're going to declutter, you know, we're in a decluttering group together, and so you have to be intentional about that, and you have to make the time to do that and say, I'm going to be intentional. And I think after you start doing that for so long, you start seeing the opportunities that are out there, and it certainly just becomes a way of life. And I think for someone who maybe wasn't raised that way, or, you know, unfortunately, sometimes people were raised more with a hard heart, or over time have forgotten about other people on our climb to success, or on our climb to just make a living, you know, and I think that we have to reevaluate ourselves. If this is something that you want to do, it can be learned, and your heart can change, and you're going to have to work at it, just like with anything, if it doesn't come natural to you. But if you truly want to do it, I think being intentional about it. And I'll tell you, I take a journal during my 365-day journey. I wrote down every day what I did, and it wasn't shared with anyone else other than my husband. But when I went back and looked at that, I could go back and say, oh gosh, oh, I remember doing this, you know, oh, I remember, and how that made me feel. That made me want to go do some more, you know. And as I said earlier, doing it anonymously is like the best. And if you don't care, I just like to
Oh,
go
it's
a little bit further. So think about those things that are big and small. So you can send a card to someone. Think about the lady who just had a baby in your neighborhood. Maybe you can make a casserole for them and take down there. Maybe it's someone who had a baby and they have older children. You say, hey, could I take your older child for a couple hours in the afternoon to the beach and let you have the day to yourself? Or could I, you know, we're getting ready to keep my trainer's kids for a couple of hours because we bought them dinner out for her birthday. They have 3 children, age 5, 3, and almost 1. And we're like, hey, Roger and I are like, yeah, we'll take them. You know, you guys go and have 3 hours. That costs us 0 money to keep those children, but it means a lot to them, and we're going to have fun with it too, you know. But look at things like that people don't think about. You know, paying someone's electric bill during the winter time that you know is struggling. Getting a gas card for someone who has someone in the hospital and they've got to drive there each day. And you know what? You can give it to them. You can send it in a card anonymously. I tell you something else that you can do is you can go and just put money in their bank account. If you are a small town like I am, I go there and say, Grace Church has an account here, and I don't need to know the number, but here's $100 if you could put it in there and don't tell anybody I did it. You know, I mean, there are ways that you can do things that are bigger, like monetary, or smaller, like making a casserole, making a piece of pie, or making a pie and taking. I heard someone the other day, I was listening to a podcast, she got a cake delivered to her, and she didn't want it all. And she has a neighbor who lost her, an older lady who lost her husband. She took a piece of that cake that was given to her, took it over to that lady and spent a half hour or whatever it was just visiting with her. Cost nobody any money, but that lady remembered that because she took time. So we have 3 things in our life. We have time, money, and energy. And at different points of our life, we have more of one than the other. And so whatever you're blessed with at whatever stage you are in your life, take that and use that for your gratitude journey.
Dang, there's a wisdom bomb. Yeah.
Let's go.
I like it. Deanna's on
way.
fire. Deanna, you have abundant energy to burn. I know. I got to ask you, how early do you start your day? What is you have so much going on. You have a full time, you have the how do you do it all?
Well, what do you have routines like meditation, exercise, walking, whatever that fills you up?
Yeah.
And so you're able to go out and give more.
Right. I think routines are very important. And that's why I'm really trying to get back into that routine of writing. So my routine, I usually get up a little bit before 6 a.m. my time, and then I will get on the treadmill. And while I'm on the treadmill, I will either listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube video. This is silly, but I watch a YouTube lady who cleans her house and decorates. And when I first ran across it, I'm like, I cannot even believe I'm watching this lady clean her house. But she does all these fun things with it, and then she decorates, and I get off the treadmill after 30 or 40 minutes and I am on fire. It's crazy, but it's so true. And then I will come upstairs, and then I usually spend 30 minutes probably on Bible study, and sometimes during that 30 to maybe 45 minutes will be my writing time as well. And then of course you got to shower and get ready. Now that I work from home, it saves me 20 minutes in the morning drive time. So I'm usually sitting down by 8 or 8:15 to start my work day. But working from home, I can get up, and when I need a break, I can go in and do laundry. I can, come back and work for a while. It's lunchtime. I can, eat lunch and unload the dishwasher while it's getting ready, So I'm a pretty good user of time. But the other thing is I do something fun every day. So I think that's also gives me energy. I do something for myself every day. It could be a piece of chocolate. And then 22 is my favorite number. So on the 22nd of every month, I do something big for myself.
Oh,
what are some examples?
Like what?
So something big for myself, on the 22nd. So that might be a spa day. It might be go buy flowers for myself. It might say that I can stay in my pajamas and watch a Hallmark movie Hallmark movies all day long, drinking my hot chocolate. Seriously, that might be one come November. Or it might be, I'm not a big shopper, but let's just say I want to go shopping for decorating things. So I may say, okay, Deanna, you can go on the 22nd. Lunch with friends. So those are kind of the bigger things. The smaller things I do might be a bath with a bath bomb, or, maybe I'm going to do my nails at night, or like I said, eat a piece of chocolate, or make myself a cake, or, my husband and I go to dinner. So I feel like that those are things that are very important for me to keep it going. And during COVID, I really encouraged those that work for me and on our team to do something for themselves every day. Even if it was go out and walk for a half hour. Don't worry about the clock. This is COVID, guys. This is a new precedent. You've got to focus on mental health. So
that's amazing. Wow, what a great thing to implement in the workplace to encourage people to take that time. Where did you learn where did this idea of the 22nd, where did you learn this?
My own little brain.
You're amazing. Yeah.
Well, I just honestly, if you don't do something for yourself every day, you're going to get in a rut and you're going to get resentful perhaps. I think probably the year that my sister passed away, she passed away December 13th, and it was very rough that Christmas up too. And so the year after, I started doing something fun because I love Christmas, but that year wasn't fun. And so I started doing something intentionally fun the day after Thanksgiving. And it's so funny because I just pulled this out the other day, so I can show it to you. I did this, I think this was last year's. I wrote down this Christmas countdown. It's Deanna's countdown to Christmas.
Let me just stop, because not only did you write it down, you printed it and laminated it. This is
the color.
You're a clinic. You're a clinic in self-care.
But I did this at Christmas time, and it was so much fun. I decided I was going to implement it every day of my life.
Oh, that's great.
You're amazing.
So it may not be as big as, like here I've got decorated gingerbread house. Okay, I'm not going to do that every day, but I do find something fun. So today I went and had lunch. There's a little girl at our church who loves to decorate tables and make food for people. And that's my passion, is decorating tablescapes. And she came to my house and she loved it so much. She's 8 years old. And she asked her mom if she could make lunch for me and do a tablescape. So I went up there, and that was my joy for today, is to get to have lunch with Sarah and see her little tablescape. So yeah. So anyway, everybody can do that, and it costs no money.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, there's so much here to.
Yeah. And I just want to say real quick, I mean, you give a lot. We talked a lot about that, but it sounds like it's also important for us all to make sure we fill up our own tanks, because if you not fill up your own, it's like they say on the plane, like, make sure your mask is on.
Yeah.
And they say if you don't, you'll pass out, and ultimately you won't be able to help anybody. So you take care of yourself, and then by doing that, it sounds like you have the energy to help a lot of others as well.
Yeah, that's probably very true. I never thought about it that way, but that's exactly right, Jim. That I do. I've always been kind of self-aware of self-care. And my boss 20 years ago was like, you go out to lunch every day? And I'm like, yeah, I'm allowed to. I'm going to do it. I mean, every single day I would leave the office, and usually I'd find a friend and we'd go. And he kind of made fun of me about that for 20 years. And then he retired. I'm still there. And now after COVID hit, people are like, in my opinion, they're like, hey, let's take the Deanna idea. Let's do all these fun things every day. I'm like, hey, I thought of it 30 years ago, but sure, you can have it.
Yeah.
How do you, I know we have to wrap up. I appreciate so much time from you. How do you, you do give a lot. You have great positive energy. We've talked about this. How do you guard that tripping point? I know even for you that there's going to be a point where you cross a line into depletion. How do you stay mindful of that, guard against it, and what actions do you take when you get there?
Yeah, that's good. I've had some of that over the last year. We sold my family home. My parents are now living in Florida. We're building them a home in our woods behind us, just a small landing place. Job was hard. COVID was hard. Lost a couple friends to cancer over the last couple years, and there were times when I was depleted. And I do think that for me, my faith really keeps me strong and grounded to be able to each morning just stay in some kind of a devotion, and obviously going to church and getting fed that way, and being with friends. But I think that one of the main things that I tell other people too is you have to recognize when you are getting depleted or when you're grieving, and don't ignore it. Because I probably did ignore that grieving process for a while with my sister, because I wanted to be the strong one for my parents, and then it comes crashing down. So even during COVID, I just talked with a women's group a couple of weeks ago up in Indianapolis, and I said to them, you have to identify what it is that's making you feel depleted or making you feel depressed, because if you don't identify it, you're not going to deal with it. And if you don't deal with it, it's going to keep growing, and you're not going to be able to get that joy. So one of the talks I do is called Junk Out, Joy In. And I told them that we're going to identify your junk today. It may not be gone when you leave this church, but you're going to identify it, and you're going to leave it with Christ, if that's where you want to leave it, or you're going to leave it by going and taking care of it. But you have to identify it, and then you have to allow yourself to grieve, but don't stay there. You got to pick yourself back up, and you have to find joy. Joy's not going to plop itself on you sitting in the recliner. You've got to be intentional and serious. So you got to identify it. You got to do something about it. Yeah. So
Netflix does not bring a joy. So I mean,
joy
a little
will
bit
not,
of joy,
yeah.
little bit of joy.
Joy will not find you. Yeah, that is a mic drop moment.
Yeah.
And that'll be my quote for the week, because that is something. Deanna, I'm amazed by you. I really am. I'm so glad we got a chance to talk. We're only ever on Messenger and kind of flying by each other. But is there anything
where can people find you?
Where can people find you? And is there anything that I didn't ask you that you just want to throw in here at the last?
No, I just appreciate it. Jim, it's so nice to talk with you too. And of course, Grace, I feel like we just know each other. I was explaining to my husband, this is what I'm doing this afternoon. And I said, my friend from California, he's like, you got a lot of friends from California. I go, no, my friend Grace. And he's like, oh yeah. I'm like, we've never even met, but I consider Grace my good friend. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah. So the way that really, if anybody wants to find me, it's deannadayyoung.com. A lot of the things that we've talked about are out there. My blog, the speaking ministry, the way you can buy my book, giving to Bucket Buddies, pictures, ways that you can just know a little bit more about Bucket Buddies and what that really amounts to. And then I'm on Facebook, Deanna Day Young, and also Instagram, Deanna Day Young. I'm trying to get better at using social media the way that the world tells you to use social media, but we got a lot of fun things going on. I don't need to be on social media all the time either, and if anyone cares, these are kind of fun. My book is Extra Hot Fudge Please, and there's just kind of each day, it's just kind of something fun to do. I've had a lot of positive feedback from it, because literally you can read them in 1 minute a day, and I try to make it fun and funny with a little lesson at the end. So Thanks you guys for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you so much. We really enjoyed it.
Great. Okay, see you.
Thank
you. See you online.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. All right, my goodness. That was a spitfire.
You're welcome.
That is Deanna Day Young out of Indiana. That's a little Midwest, a little South, a lot of sass. I mean, she is amazing. What do you think?
I thought it was terrific.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that we could all probably be more generous, speaking mostly for myself, and also good self-care, not I mean, and I thought that in a world where, if we're being honest, there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of just the news and COVID and a lot of unrest. It's good to be reminded there's some, terrific things we can do and some terrific people out there. And it's a little bit of for me, it was a bit of fresh air, because most of what I find is incoming is not always super positive. Maybe, like she said, you maybe got to go find joy and find positivity, because it's not going to find you if you're on Twitter.
Yeah, if you can't find it, spread it, right?
Yeah, well, that's my great-grandmother said. I never even met her. She's dead.
Oh gosh. So my big takeaways were, about generosity is a muscle. You can build it. It's something you can practice.
Yes.
You don't have to practice it in a big way to practice it. You can start. Her buckets are $10 each. I mean, you could start small and just build your way up. You can challenge yourself to a month, or she did a year. There's a lot of great. I'm going to have I'm hoping to have Stephanie Jones on. She wrote a book about this. So that, and then this idea that just to know in yoga, they call it finding your edge, know where your boundaries are, where those tipping points are, pay attention to them, and don't let yourself, if you can, don't let yourself get past them. Yeah, like heed the yellow light. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, this one went long, but man, there's a lot there. I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I sure did. We will be back with you next week with another guest. The ladies are lining up. I am so excited.
I'm going to try to get some men on board.
Jim's going to try to get some
men. I want to talk about arm wrestling and cutting things down and destroying relationships, man stuff, drinking too much.
Oh my goodness. So we're going to try, if you know anyone who wants to talk with us about anything, it's called Rise and Write. It's not just about writing. Today we talked about building a nonprofit. This is what it's about. So we're very eager to share these stories. I'm so excited. I feel like we're really getting in a groove. So anything else before I sign off?
No, we're good. Let's
okay.
Go.
All right. Until next time, set your alarms for whatever time you feel most creative, productive, generous, thoughtful, whatever it is, set your alarms for whatever time you feel most creative and productive, and then go rise and write.
Right.
We will see you next week, okay?
I'm hungry.